when I first diagnosed, we was 21, just about to go into sort of wedding plans with my wife. We'd had a sort of 6 months prior to a wedding of trying to conceive naturally, and nothing had come out of it, which is sort of nothing too unusual. But back about 4 years previous, I'd had a couple of testicular lumps removed, and although at the time I was told everything was going to be okay, so I'd always had this seed of doubt that maybe it wasn't quite going to be as straightforward as all that. So after we'd had the wedding, we'd been trying for about 18 months by that point. We thought we'd get some help and go and see a GP. Luckily, a really nice GP put us on some tests to find out if there was anything underlying with either one of us. NATS results came back pretty normal, and my bloods were normal bar slightly low testosterone, so there was nothing obvious there to give the reasons why. So we then went on to the sample tests, and it was from those that we then had the diagnosis that I had a 0 count. So sort of the worst news we could have had. We hoped it would be a low count or low mobility or something that we could do something with. So to end up with a 0 count was a bit of a shock still, although we would have issues that almost seemed like the end of the road for some time. We didn't really do anything about it then for 4 months, other than sort of carry on, I guess, put to the back of our mind, try and forget about the news, the diagnosis, neither one of us talking about what we should do next. And then it was a good blowout at New Year's Eve that brought everything to life, big arguments, and then we started to put things into place, really. So we got some help. We contacted a clinic, and that's when we started the ball rolling and saw that we had some options open to us. Sort of spend your life not wanting to have children too early. We thought we'd done the right bits by wedding, by house, and then the family. So I suppose to suddenly get to a point where the last bit of the puzzle was impossible. It was really tough to sort of get your head around at first, and it took a long time to realise there is a light out there. There's other ways and means around it, but you got to face some pretty strong challenges financially, criticism from people that don't quite understand, and even the sort of no harm meant by comments by people of when you're having your kids, then or seeing siblings come along and that, and not being quite as involved as you want to be, because seeing newborns are sort of tough. So we did get quite isolate. We even moved 15 miles from family just to made it our own little world for a bit, because it was easier to have an escape. There was a whole load of guilt that I was making her have to go through all these hoops, have to suffer all the emotional problems of treatment, hormone, drugs, miscarriage. There was a whole lot that really we didn't really ever contemplate having to go through. A lot of the miscarriages, if we were a normal couple, we wouldn't have known were miscarriages. It was only due to the treatment that we knew the moment it had worked, and therefore a loss 2-3 weeks later would have just been put down to a late cycle, I guess, as opposed to knowing what had been lost. So yeah, the psychological bit for me was quite tough, because you just saw your wife breaking down at something that you couldn't fix. Those are fertility issues as a man. They can't help but make you feel a little bit inadequate. Your whole point of being a man, husband, and in this case a father, is that you're the one that can help procreate, and you think you should be a dad. So when you're told that you can't produce a child, you don't have that part of you, it does sort of make you feel a fair bit inadequate, when it's nothing that can be helped, but that comes with it. I wanted to set up something just to help someone else and to try and find someone else to relate to. We'd gone through nearly 8 years of treatment by this point. It was easier to put my head in the sand than it was to deal with it, and eventually, just before our last cycle, I tried to find avenues to talk and found a lot of the mainstream sites were very dominated in a female perspective, which is fine. But I think as any couple going through it will say that you have times when you don't want to blame your partner, but you have bits that you know would upset your partner if you said them. but you still need to voice your feelings somewhere. So it was a site just to try and air out a few thoughts and try and help someone else at the same time. So it's sort of as much to help me as another, but there was nowhere else to go. There was nowhere physically or online I could find that was a sort of closed door that you could just say what you needed to. If you feel when you can that you need to go and get some help, talk to someone, then to find an avenue. I think we could have avoided an awful lot of rows as a couple if I'd done something sooner. But it's easier said than done in hindsight, looking back. But I sat in silence and waited too many years and bottled up too much, when really if I'd have just said what I thought, I probably could have got a lot more off my chest. We could have got through a lot of the tough times a lot easier than what we ended up doing.